Welcome to Clay's Cortex.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 7 of Clay's Cortex, and we're going to be going over a training topic today. Now, again, if you like this podcast, you like the topics, if you want to give some input, please let me know. If you really like it, share it. Please share it, like it, comment it, rate it if you can on the iTunes, the podcast app. Like, hey, let me know what you think about this podcast. It'd be great. And if you really enjoy this and you're getting something out of it, please share it with friends, family, whoever else. So what we're going to be talking about today is a training topic. I guess you could say training. It's also like a mentality thing too. But the topic in episode number 7 of Clay's Cortex, this podcast, is the magic exercise. And again, if you're watching this, I'm going to put that in quotations. The magic exercise, right? So what I mean by that is essentially is people, just like with anything, people want to lose weight, right? They would rather take a magic pill to fix all their problems, right? Like I got this hat, and LeBron was wearing it a while back. That's an awesome concept. What that hat is saying is, and it says there's no magic pill, right? And if I go off the topic of this, there's no magic exercise to cure whatever you got going on or goals you want to hit when it comes to fitness. And why I say that is our body is a system made up of systems, right? We've got a circulatory system, a nervous system, right? Breathing, respiratory system, an endocrine system. We have muscular system, joint system. All those work cohesively to help our body function as best as possible. So if it comes down to when I hear people say, hey, this one exercise, man, it will literally help your posture. Or man, this one exercise, strength coach wise, this one exercise will make you so athletic, right? And the hard part with those statements is that they're biased statements. They're based off of their experiences and what they've seen over time with themselves. And then worked with a client wanting that to work, they're confirming their own bias and don't even realize it. So I guess when it comes down to this, there's no magic exercise that can apply to everybody, right? Not at all, right? If we look at magic, magic's like something to where, I've got a bird in my hand and I do a little weird hand thing or clap my hands together and then dust comes everywhere and the bird's gone, right? It doesn't work like that when it comes to your body, right? It doesn't work like that. We can use exercise to help you feel better and so forth, but there's no one exercise that applies to everybody, right? There's no magic in exercise, and I'm going to get into that during this podcast. And it was pretty cool because this guy named Brett Bartholomew, he wrote this book called Conscious Coaching. Great book, right? It's very psychological or psychology based when it comes to working with people, which is crucial, right? Now, he also has a podcast. It's called Art of Coaching. Great podcast. He has some great guests on there, but he talked about in one of the episodes that he did by himself. He said essentially, what is the one exercise for overall athletic development? And the conclusion of that was that there is none because everybody's different. So what does that person need compared to the other person? If I take person A and person B, they may play the same sport, same position, but they might need something completely different for their body, right? But if I was like, oh, well, they all play the same position in, say, football. They all play receiver. This one lift, all of our receivers do because this is what they need, right? There's nothing magic about the exercise, right? If I get into this deeper, it's essentially the intent or focus that you do the exercise, which elicits a good response that you're looking for. If you go into an exercise with, I'm going to do this as best as possible, and it's prescribed for me, I'm going to dominate this, you're going to get way more out of that. If I go back to homework, right, or life, or whatever it is, if I go into doing, say, I will use math, right, in one of the podcasts. So math, essentially, when I went into math class, I wasn't very smart and so forth, and I struggled with that. If I went in with the mentality of like, I'm just going to get through math, I have to do this, I'm not going to do very good in that, right? But if I go in like, I'm going to work hard every day in class, this problem I'm going to dominate, I remember this from this, that starts to carry over. But it doesn't just carry over into just math, it carries over into every single subject that I do. Same thing with exercise. If you want to be a better athlete, if you want to move better, feel better, your intent and focus when doing exercise has to be high. You have to be focused, right? And so with that being said, if you're focused during that, that's going to also carry over to other aspects of your life. So again, I just want to say, there's no magic in doing one exercise or applying to everybody. There's no magic in exercise. It's how you do it. If I take it from my perspective, it's how you coach it, right? Are you coaching the exercise, and are you working and communicating with that person to where they can understand what you want them to do? Are they understanding what they're doing? Are they understanding why they're doing it? Because if you put those two together, you're going to have a good outcome. Because if I have an athlete that comes in or an adult that comes in and we're doing this exercise because of this, and this is going to help with this, they might actually buy into that exercise more, which may seem like magic because it's helping them feel better and so forth. You have to communicate how important exercises are for your clients, right? Or even for yourself. If you're like, man, I want to exercise better, I want to do better. First thing I would do is get mentally locked in, right? I went to RTS class, and when it comes to lifting, people put music on. When we go for a run, he gave this analogy of going for a run, cardio work, we put headphones on, right? To numb I don't really want to do this. Maybe try it without music one day and see if you can focus on, okay, I want my knee to come up, I want to do this, make sure my arms are pumping. The quality and intent of the exercise or cardio that you're doing, you may get more out of it, right? It's a big thing. So again, back to it, there is no magic exercise, right? Exercise can be super powerful if you're consistent. Consistent, high focus helps you actually achieve the things that you want to do. It may seem like magic. People come in here and they're like, oh my gosh, my squat went up by this much, or blah, blah, blah. Because I got them to get in and locked into every single rep during that set. How do you motivate somebody or help walk alongside them to achieve their goals with exercise, right? It's how you execute the exercise. Hold on. Little motorcycle coming by the gym. It's not the exercise that's special, right? Because if I write a program for somebody and they don't go into it with all effort, they're not focused through it, they're kind of going through the motions, the program's going to seem like complete crap. It's not going to seem like it's a good program. But if I give somebody else the same program and their focus is high, they're going to do the best that they can. Good things can happen. So it comes down to the intent of how you achieve the exercise, right? So if I was to say, hey, this one exercise will fix everybody's posture, will blah, 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 that's my bias, right? And I talked about that earlier. We have to be careful of that bias. If somebody tells you that this is going to be perfect for everybody, we need this protocol is perfect for everybody, not necessarily the case, right? I think you should go at it from a procedure mentality, right? And I'll talk about that in another podcast. But if I go back to the last podcast we did, episode 6 with Arthur, we talked about the difference between being a chef and a cook when it comes to being a personal trainer. And we should all mostly be like chefs. If we're like a cook, we may not get good responses. Now, when chefs first start out, they're more like a cook. That takes time to get really good at refining your craft and so forth. And that's important. But if you look at the process of a cook becoming a chef, they start to understand the ingredients, the different meats, how they cook, what temperatures, when should I season. I shouldn't season before I put it on, or should I season it before or once I put it on, right? Should I cook it first and then broil it, right? They understand the intricacies of the ins and outs. And when you work with a good exercise professional, it may feel like exercise is magic because of the way that they understand the physics. They understand how you move. Their assessment that they've done with you is good. They can interpret it to apply it to you and so forth. So they might seem like a chef. So I would try to look for somebody that has that mentality that can help you on your journey, because they know that it's not just the exercise or the one exercise that helps them achieve the task. It's how you do the exercise. So again, it's the intent of how you do things will help you achieve those goals, right? And again, it comes down to consistent effort over time, right? And I wrote down, sustained effort over time compounds, right? Or it exponentially grows. It's the same thing like a savings account, right? Like, and it depends. Like if you have normal savings account, you put $100 in or whatever, the return isn't very high unless you invest it somewhere else, right? But if you, as the person that's doing exercise, want to use exercise to help you feel better, get stronger, move better, not be in as much pain, not feel as tight, so forth, if you can find a schedule of exercising on a consistent basis, it will help you. It will help you essentially pour into your physical savings account. It will help you over time feel better, right? Because the thing is with our body, like I said earlier, it's a system made of systems. Our body is really good at adapting. We just have to make sure we give it the right stimulus to help it adapt, right? And actually, there's been a really cool guy posting on Instagram on his account talking about like exercise, stimulus, so forth, which is really cool. So essentially, if you can find out what your body needs to help you achieve those goals, exercise might seem like magic, right? If I look at nutrition, right? Say somebody's lacking in, vitamin C, right? And I ended up, say I was a nutritionist, which I'm not, it's hypothetical, and I gave somebody vitamin D drops. And they report to me, man, I'm not feeling better because they're deficient in vitamin C. Give them vitamin D, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I don't feel better. And I'm like, well, it works for everybody. That's a bias, right? You've got to figure out essentially what that person needs, right? There's no magic to nutrition. There's science. There's also a science when it comes to exercise, just people aren't looking at it that way. They're using exercise and prescribing it, or telling people that they should do certain movements a certain way based off of their bias. So it's almost like the blind leading the blind. That's what people might be like, man, exercise, it just isn't helping me, or whatever it is, right? Then they go to somebody else that's an exercise professional or a really good strength coach or a personal trainer, whatever you want to call yourself, a body worker, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. It's because of the fact that they were strategic and intelligent with what they were doing. That's why it's like, oh, it's magic. It seems like magic. It's not magic, right? Essentially, we're trying to help you with exercise achieve your goals to feel better, move better, get stronger, whatever that may be. So if you find somebody that's very intelligent, an exercise professional, takes pride in what they do in a good way, right, is very, very thoughtful with what they do, you might think exercise or these exercises are magic. It's not. So if you look at this continuum, if you come and you work with an exercise professional, say they come in, they assess you, right? It's a very thorough assessment, like we do one here. It's a 2-part assessment. You do a very thorough assessment. So the intent is to collect information to figure out where that person needs to start, right? How this process should go. So me as the exercise professional or strength coach or whatever, my intent with collecting that information was high. Then we break down their assessment. They come in and we start exercising and getting them to understand that your focus and intent, every rep, every set, everything's important. And they start to have high intent, good things start to happen. The hard part is on both sides of that, as the exercise professional and the client or the athlete or the person, whoever it is, if either one of y'all's intents are off, the intent is off, you're not going to achieve the goals of thinking the exercise can really help me. When it can, I've seen it happen multiple times, right? And that's what's tough. Again, going back to, it's not the exercise that's magic. It's how the exercise is being done. So again, when it comes to this, you've got to find a rhythm of exercising on a regular basis. Maybe it's once a week. Maybe it's twice a week, right? And exercise, we can define that however you want with cardio, strength training, whatever it is. But figuring out what's a schedule for you that is sustainable so you can keep pouring into your physical savings account that will compound over time to help you sustain for longer, right? Because once we get to 50, right, science has shown we start to lose some stuff, right? So how can we use exercise to help you physically, which helps you mentally and so forth, to keep progressing, right? So if somebody tells you that, hey, I've got the magic exercise, or I have the exercise program to help you reach your goals, if they say that to you and they're selling you on that, I'll be honest, I would be very skeptical, because everybody's body's different, right? Just like our fingerprints are completely unique to us, even when it comes to twins, right? They may look identical twins. They may look the same. Their fingerprints are going to be different, right? So when it comes to your exercises that you should be doing, they should be fit to you. And if you work with somebody that can really, tailor an exercise to you based off physics, based off how you move, they take in all these variables to figure out what your goals are, you're going to have good outcomes. It's going to feel like, wow, this is unbelievable. It's really helping me. But there's a lot of effort and intent that comes from both sides, right, to execute this. So I guess, when I posted this online, it was essentially, I want people to think, oh, what's the magic exercise? There is no magic exercise. It comes down to your intent, how focused you are, and how you execute the exercise. So with that being said, I hope this encourages you to understand that you should go on your journey and realize that our body is very adaptable and can change. But we have to be intentional when doing our exercises, because it's just like when you study for a test. If you go in with not a very good attitude to study for a test to do well in the test, or you just want to memorize the material to then get the grade, that's just like going to a workout, working out, and leaving, and you just try to get through the workout as fast as you can, or whatever it is, right? So I guess I want to encourage you guys with, be intentional when you're exercising. If you don't even know where to start, go find an exercise professional, right? Or a muscle system specialist. Reach out to me if you got questions about that, where you could go, so forth. Find somebody that's very qualified. And if you don't know how to figure out whether somebody else is qualified to help you, interview them, right? You don't just go to a doctor if you need surgery and just, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Unless you get a second opinion sometimes, but it's a very complex case or so forth. You get second opinions. So interview your trainers, exercise professionals, and go from there. Because then in that case, they can help motivate you, to help educate you, to be intentional with your exercise. And then when that happens, exercise might feel like magic. So thanks for listening to this episode number 7 of Clay's Cortex, the podcast. If you like it, please share it. Let me know what you guys think. Along with that too, please, if you got any questions or topics you want me to talk about, I've gotten some feedback on topics to talk about. I will talk about those as I get, like multiple ones of the same ones. So again, the Instagram is Clay's Cortex, and you can listen to it on iTunes podcast, and you can also watch it on YouTube. But thanks for listening, guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week for the next episode. This is Curtis, signing out.